Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making a shop-made Jenga game. Well, this may be one of the simplest projects I have ever brought to the shop, but it may also be one of the most fun. If you don't know what Jenga is, it's a great family game that involves a bunch of blocks of wood that are all the same size. Not much of a project, but we're going to take this for a bit of a twist a little later on in the show. First off, let's head over to the bench and talk about the size of these pieces that we need. Well, this is an absolutely great project for using up scrap, and I have a bunch of scrap cherry pieces here that I'm going to try to utilize to make our pieces. Now, you're going to need a total of 54 pieces, and believe it or not, there is kind of a formula, so you can make them whatever size you want. Basically, the formula is that each one of these blocks is going to be 3 times as long as what it is wide, and it needs to be 1/5 thick as what it is long. Did that make sense to you? So 3 times as long as it is wide and 1/5 as thick as the length. So if you want to save yourself the trouble of the calculations, I've already done it here for you. If you're in metric, you're going to want them to be 7.5 centimeters long, 1.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters. And for us imperial guys, that will be 19/32 of an inch thick, 63/64 wide, and 2 61/64 long. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to joint one edge of each one of these pieces of cherry, and we're going to rip the width, which is going to be our 63/64 of an inch. And at this point, with all of our pieces cut to the proper width, they're still the wrong thickness, but that's okay. We're going to cut them to their final length of 2 61/64. Remember, you need 54 pieces of this. And now over at the table saw, we're going to take all of these pieces, flip them up on end, and we're going to cut them to a thickness of 19/32 of an inch. Guys, if you are not comfortable doing this with this smaller pieces, my suggestion would be to plane your wood down to 19/32 of an inch thick first, and then cut them to their width and their length. For me, this was mostly scrap. There would have been too much waste for me in order to do that, and I don't mind cutting it like this. The gripper does a great job at it. So I'm going to cut all of these to their final thickness, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, and there we have all 54 pieces cut. Guys, I will remind you, please, as far as safety goes, this is what I consider production work. You really want to take breaks and pay attention to what you're doing while cutting these. So what we're going to do now is each and every one of these pieces is going to get a sanding on all sides. And we can do that with just a little bit of sandpaper, mount it to MDF. We're going to sand them all, and once we get the surfaces sanded, what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of sandpaper and we're going to break all of these corners and soften all of these pieces. So we're going to do that to all 54 pieces. This is going to take a while. Put on some music, relax, and get them sanded up. And after what seems like 24 hours of sanding, you end up with your Jenga pieces. Now, you can stop right here and call this the game if you like. But we're going to take it just a little bit further. So what I have is some pieces of maple here. I have cut them to be 7/8 of an inch cubed all the way around. And again, just like our Jenga pieces here, I have broken all of the corners and sharp edges. So I also have some bits of scrap here, and I have in the middle of one cut a 7/8 by 7/8 square, and in the middle of the other I have cut a hole that coincides with the dimension of our game pieces. As well, I have a thicker piece of scrap material here that has a hole cut out that coincides with the width and the thickness of our pieces. And what these are going to be for is for laser engraving jigs, we'll call them. Essentially, I want to laser engrave on each one of these pieces, and I will set up, say, this particular template right here. I will set that up on my wasteboard of my laser engraver right in the center, and I will secure it in place, and then all I have to do is drop one of my game pieces in here. I can engrave it, take it out. I can drop in the next one and go from there. So I'm going to engrave all of these with, well, I'll show you when I'm done. It'll be a fun little logo kind of thing. The other thing I want to do is on these 4 pieces, these squares, I really only need 2 of them, but I want to laser engrave dice numbers on these, 1 through 6. Now you want to remember, if you want to know how to place your numbers on the dice, opposite sides of the dice always equal 7. So it'll be 1 and 6, and of course 2 and 5, and then 4 and 3. So that's what this little template is for here. And once again, I will set up my laser engraver. I will set it so that this is centered, and then I can place my numbers on here and make my dice. I only really need 2, but I'm going to make 4 in case one gets lost or what have you. Now I also have this, and what this is going to do, again, it's another laser engraving template, but I'm going to sit this piece right here like that. Each one of the pieces is going to get a number engraved in the end. So this one will be number 1. We'll engrave the number 1 here and the number 1 here. The next piece will number 2, and then number 3, and then number 4, and so on and so on. This jig will make it so I don't have to fuss around so much with framing and that sort of thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to number them 1 through 36. And once we get all of those engraved, I'm going to show you what the final product is like, and then I'll explain both how to play the game traditionally and how to play it with our little embellishments. And what I ended up with was this. And what I've done is I've made up this cute little logo here. Instead of the original, I've called it Kenga. And I've put one of these on each of the blocks. And I've also, in the end of each block, I have engraved a number. Now, I had said to do numbers 1 through to 36. And that is technically not true, because I also made these dice. Now what we need to do is the numbers that you're going to engrave will be all of the numbers between 1 and 36 that are able to be obtained when you multiply the numbers on the dice together. So 6 times 6 would be the highest number that you could get, and that would be your 36. But say numbers like 17, that would not work. 21, that's 3 times 7, but there is no 7. Numbers like 16 would work, 4 times 4, and you can obtain those numbers from the dice. So those are the numbers that you want to engrave, and you will actually end up with 3 sets of 18 blocks that all have the same number. So there's 3 blocks with number 12 on it, 3 blocks with number 8, 3 with number 5, etc., etc. So that is our game, but for those of you who don't know, let me show you how to play, and we'll start off with classic Jenga. Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to set up your playing area, and for that you will take your Jenga blocks, or in this case your Kenga blocks, and place them beside each other just like this, 3 across. Then we will take another 3 blocks just like this, and they will get placed the opposite direction on top. You will then take another 3 and on top, just like this, and then another 3, and you will continue going until you end up with 18 rows high of your Kenga blocks. just like that. Now you're going to want to straighten them up, and you can do it manually if you like, but I ended up laser cutting a box for storage. Right now it's just held together with elastic bands, but I will be gluing this together. I also made up a lid for it, and of course that will just sit on top to store my game in. However, what you want to do with this box, the box just makes it easier to straighten it up. And we'll just slide this down over top of our tower. It'll all fit inside, and that will help us to straighten up all of our blocks to make a little more of a perfect tower. And once you get the box slid down over top, we'll take it off the end of the table here, holding our hand at the bottom to make sure that it all stays in place. We'll just straighten it down onto one corner, just like that. And then we'll plunk it and push it out to the middle, and then we can remove our box, and our tower should be nice and straight, just like that. Now, the person that built the tower goes first. So what you need to do is you need to take a block anywhere from the top levels down and remove that block. So just sort of touch them and see which one's going to slide better for you. Okay, this number 15 here. So there you go. We'll pull this out, and when you remove it now, you have to build it on top, going the opposite direction of the top layer. 10 seconds after you have placed that block, if the tower is still standing, it is the next person's turn. And from there, they need to come around and decide what block they want to choose. So they will take a block out and place it on the top. 10 seconds after it's placed, everything is stable, it's the next person's turn. And you will keep going like that until, basically, until the tower falls over. So in this case now, you cannot build on top of the tower until the level is complete. It needs all 3 blocks on there, and then you can start placing them in opposite directions. The game continues until the tower falls. The person that made the tower fall, the previous person, who was the last one to successfully place a brick, they are the winner. So that is the classic game. How do you play the twisted version? Well, let me show you. Basically, you have 2 dice. Each player has the 2 dice. And you roll the dice, and in this case, I got a 2 and a 3. You multiply those 2 numbers together. 2 times 3 is 6. I need to remove a brick or a block with the number 6. I don't have a choice. So there are 3 of them throughout the tower. So I need to find one of them that I'm comfortable with, and I need to remove it and place it on the top. I don't like that one. This one over here. And once you get it removed, you can place it on the top of the tower, again, opposite of the direction of the ones that are there currently. And then the next player rolls. 6 times 6, so that's 36. So I find the block with 36 on it somewhere here in the tower. Again, there's 3 of them, and I will remove it and place it on top. And once again, this goes until the tower falls. Now, if you roll a number and there's no way that you can pull that number without absolutely losing the game, you are allowed 3 passes during a game. So you can pass that number 36 and roll again and choose that number. But you can only do that 3 times. That's it. After that, you have to pull what is rolled. So if I just pass, I just got 5 times 2, 10. I need to find number 10 right here. I can take this one. That base of the tower is very wobbly. Okay, I don't want that one. Bottom line, guys, is I'll take this number 10. Bottom line is that you keep going, just like in classic version, until the tower falls. And again, the last person to put one on successfully wins the game. The dice just add a different perspective to it, where you don't get the choice of what you pull. You can't be so choosy. So there you go. There is a classic version and a bit of a twist for it. I hope you guys like it. And there you have it. A homemade Jenga, or in my case, Kenga game. Guys, this project is a load of fun, not just in the construction and the making of the project, which is dead simple, but also playing the game, whether you play it in the original classic style or whether you use the dice and do the multiplication thing. Now, the thing with the multiplication, guys, what an opportunity to teach your young ones and to help them with their multiplication tables up to 6. It's a great opportunity. They're having fun, they're playing a game, and they're learning multiplication all at the same time without even really realizing that you're educating them. Guys, it's just a load of fun. It really is. Now, I'm sure that some of you have seen this online where guys have made these things out of pieces of 2x4 and made these large versions for their yard. And you know what? That is perfectly fine. You can make this in whatever size or scale you want. All you need to do is follow the differences or the proportions that I gave you at the beginning of the show. You know, that thing where the width is 1/3 of the length of the etc, etc, etc. So you follow those proportions and you can make it whatever size you want, just with a little bit of math to figure out what it is you need. So you can very easily translate this into a different scale game. Just remember that the bigger you make it, the heavier the pieces, and of course the more stock you're going to use. Guys, this is a fantastic way to use up and eat away at your scrap pile. Those pieces of scrap in there that have been sitting there for years that you have no idea what to do with, but you're hoping that one day you're going to get to use them. You can use them up for projects like this. You could whip these off like there's no tomorrow and give them as Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, just because I love you gifts. They're just a great way to use up scrap. And all in all, I did some calculations. I made this thing for way less than $10. So it's a win-win. It's using up scrap and a cheap way to get a present that someone's going to love and get use out of, and a great way to start some family time with your kids. So that laser box that I did, while it's not necessary, it is kind of cool. I like those laser finger joints. And as well, it helps to set up the tower and make it nice and straight right from the get-go. But guys, that is not necessary. The laser engraving on the pieces is not necessary. You could use a magic marker on the end of these blocks to mark the numbers just as easily. You could use a wood burner. You could paint them on, whatever you like. You could use, if you have a Cricut cutter, you could cut them out of vinyl and stick them on the ends of these things. Whatever you want to do. You don't necessarily need a laser engraver to complete this project, but I really like the professionalism that it adds to the project, and I like the way it looks. Guys, either way, this is a win-win situation. Cheap, uses up scrap, provides memories through family time, and the kids have a blast playing this game. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you liked the content today. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click that bell and then you're not going to miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you're going to try this for yourself. But more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.